thought that we've been infected by the woke virus on some level. The thought just came to me. Back in the, I don't want to date myself too much, but a couple of decades ago, you would often hear this phrase that you should separate the art from the artist. The idea here is basically if someone or something produces a good product and they have an opinion or personality that is disagreeable to you, then the moral thing to do is to ignore or assess the product irrespective of the person. Now, what happened a couple of decades ago is the world collectively was more conservative and religious based, and the arts were still very liberal. So what you will often find is the product might be decent, partially, by the way, funny enough, because it was still restrained by some religious context. It's just as I get older, I realize now that the religious context and the boundaries established at the time kind of, force these liberal people not to go too insane. It's like Kojima, where if you let Kojima run free, you get Death Stranding. You restrain him a little bit, you get Metal Gear 1 and 2. So the leftists and the liberals will often say that you got to separate the art from the artist, and they will say this for like Elton John. They will say, all right, his music is good, but he's a funny man. Now the religious people will say, no, you can't support him because he's a funny man, and then the leftists will come in and say, no, you must separate the art from the artist. This is the only way for you to be to have a fair assessment. But even as they ask you to uphold that noble standard, they don't adhere by it. So they're asking to play by rule they don't play by. If a comedian says something that they don't like 10 years ago, they would pick up on that and say, nope, doesn't matter what type of product the comedian puts forward, it is bad because the comedian is bad. The comedian hurt my fifis. If there's a game dev who once made some YouTube videos bashing feminism, and that game dev is now hired on some product, they will say, nope, product is bad, we must start a hate campaign because the game dev hurt my fifis. So even as they require you to accept someone who is disagreeable to your moral and values as long as the product is good, they aren't willing to live by that same standard. And what I find funny is with the Target, Disney, and targeted Bud Light, more targeted on Bud Light than Disney right now, where you have very pointed consumer backlash. The leftists hate that. They can't handle it. It triggers them like something fierce. And so you see all these people come out and say it's terrible and it's silly and you're a grown man, child, man, baby, blah blah blah, and they try to discourage you from using their own tactic against them. Right? And I remember seeing a couple of videos in which some people were saying that it sets a very dangerous precedent that companies can be bullied by a vocal minority. It will cause a change in the shift of politics and culture. And I thought, oh really? Yeah, you would know all about that because you spent the past 2 decades exploiting that very same thing in order to change culture in the first place. So this is just a correction as to how things should be. Now, I'm not saying this to say that you should, quote unquote, take the higher ground and not boycott companies if they say something disagreeable to your morals. Collectively, we are in this position now because we have kept taking the higher ground and making things slide. People say it's a slippery slope fallacy. It's not a fallacy if it's clear as day. The fallacy requires a break in logic. That's a fallacy. So something is easily predictable. It's not a fallacy. Taking the higher road or the higher ground only works when you are dealing with similarly sophisticated individuals or agencies, entities. But what this has shown and how impactful it is, because this is the only time that companies start to back off from all this woke nonsense and ESG and DEI and all this stupid nonsense, when you employ the same tactic against them and you hit them in their finances. So what this shows is if you are dealing with unsophisticated people who do not engage in an argument in good faith and want to just lie and use propaganda and smear and gaslight, those persons you can't have an intellectual debate or conversation with. You can't take the high road with those persons or entities. Those people require the stick, require brute force. And with companies, the stick isn't you writing, oh, I disagree, and still spending your money. The stick is you not spending your money, not patronizing the company. So keep on keeping on, and if companies do this woke nonsense, do not be afraid to beat them over the head with a stick.